Bonjour et bienvenue dans la salle de presse de la Commission européenne. Merci également de participer en ligne et de nous suivre en direct sur Europe by Satellite. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes le vendredi 12 novembre. Like yesterday, I would like to start by giving you an update on our efforts to address the crisis unleashed by the Belarusian regime. We continue to work very closely with the airline sector to prevent the trafficking and smuggling of people to the border region in Belarus. Vice President Skinas and Commissioner Vălean and their teams have been in touch with international aviation organizations such as the Arab Air Carriers Organization and IATA. Contacts have also been established with a number of individual airlines, and all airlines contacted have strongly condemned any form of human trafficking and have indicated their full commitment to fight against it. These contacts are already showing fruit. To give you some examples, Iraqi Airlines has confirmed that it will not resume flights to Minsk, and Turkish Airlines will also suspend sales of one-way tickets to Minsk from Turkey. The Turkish authorities will also prevent Belarus airline Belavia from using the Middle East network of Turkish airlines, thus preventing it from flying migrants to Minsk via Istanbul. The European Commission is, as we have already explained, exploring closely sanctions, including blacklisting against airlines that do not cooperate on this matter and are complicit in trafficking. Furthermore, as you know, Vice President Skinas started yesterday his outreach to countries of origin and transit. He was yesterday in the United Arab Emirates and is today in Lebanon. There, the Vice President is meeting the President of the Republic, the Prime Minister, and the Speaker of the Parliament, as well as the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and of Interior. Please note that very shortly he will be holding a press point directly from Lebanon. You can follow it live on Europe by Satellite Plus. Also, continuing our contacts with partners in the region, Commissioner Johansson will travel on Monday to Egypt to participate in a high-level dialogue on migration. The current situation will feature prominently in her talks in Egypt. Furthermore, we are following very closely the humanitarian situation at the border, and we were very glad to see that IOM and the UNHCR were granted access yesterday to the crossing point in Belarus, where about 2,000 migrants have been trapped since 8th of November. Likewise, I'd like to inform you that we are in contact with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent societies to discuss potential ways of supporting them in their invaluable help that they can provide and are providing to the people stranded at the border. All these aspects will also be discussed and taken forward by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs when they meet for the Foreign Affairs Council on Monday under the presidency of HRVP Borrell. Finally, we stand ready to support additionally, with additional means, our member states concerned by the situation. As discussed in this press room several times, we are already providing extensive support for the management of our external borders. And for your convenience, we have published a fact sheet summarizing the types of support and the extent of such support financially that we provide to the member states. You can find the link to this fact sheet in today's daily news. Puis, je voudrais partager avec vous l'agenda de la présidente pour la semaine prochaine. Lundi, la présidente von der Leyen prononcera un discours par visioconférence lors du 15e sommet économique organisé par le journal allemand Süddeutsche Zeitung. Mercredi, la présidente présidera la réunion hebdomadaire du Collège des commissaires. Et jeudi, la présidente prononcera un discours lors de la cérémonie du prix Henry Kissinger présentée par l'Académie américaine de Berlin. Et ensuite, pour passer à tout un autre sujet, nous publions aujourd'hui un nouveau paquet d'infractions. Comme vous le savez, pour aider les citoyens et les entreprises à profiter pleinement du marché intérieur, la Commission est en dialogue permanent avec les États membres qui ne respectent pas le droit communautaire. Et au besoin, nous ouvrons des procédures d'infraction à leur égard. Et les décisions prises aujourd'hui comprennent 34 lettres de mise en demeure, 16 avis motivés et 6 renvois à la Cour de justice de l'Union européenne. Nous clôturons également aujourd'hui 46 dossiers en cours. Vous trouverez un dossier, un résumé des principales décisions en ligne et dans nos daily news. And as the last point, allow me to highlight that a special ECOFIN and budget meeting is taking place today to prepare the conciliatory committee that will discuss later with the Parliament the adoption of the 2022 budget. Commissioner Hahn will participate in both meetings representing the Commission. The press arrangements will be determined later in the afternoon, so we just ask you to keep an eye on the details that will be announced by our colleagues in the Council and in Parliament. And finally, before giving you the floor for your questions, let me remind you that Vice President Šefčovič is in London today meeting with David Frost. He will hold a press point from London at about 15:45 Brussels time to brief on the talks. You will be able to follow it, of course, on Euro by satellite, like always. That's all for our announcements today, and now over for your questions, please.
Thank you, Dana. Just wondering if you could kind of give us some insight onto what you believe to be a build-up of Russian troops on the Ukrainian border. It was, I believe, a topic of conversation between President von der Leyen and Antony Blinken when she was in Washington this week, or still is in Washington. Don't know if she's travelled back yet. Just wondering, do you kind of share the assessment of the Americans that has appeared that an invasion could be imminent? And what are you doing about this? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Joe. Allow me to recall that indeed President von der Leyen met President Biden on Wednesday in Washington. They had a wide-ranging discussion about pressing international issues. They discussed about the situation at the Belarus border, but they also discussed quite extensively about the situation in Ukraine. You have seen the readouts that we provided, including the one from the White House as well as ours. And we both referred to the fact that Ukraine was evoked and that we both expressed our full support for the territorial integrity of Ukraine. This is all I can tell you about what was said in that meeting. For details about our observations of the situation in Ukraine, I invited Peter to join me.
Thank you. Of course, the European Union is a direct neighbor of Ukraine and as such is watching the situation there and around very, very closely. This was also discussed already in April by the foreign ministers when they had a dedicated discussion about Russia's military build-up at the Ukrainian borders and in and around the illegally annexed Crimea. And since then we have been, as the European Union, looking into ways how to enhance Ukraine's resilience. And of course we continued to watch and we continue to watch the situation. And the information we gathered so far is rather worrying. And we are also discussing and exchanging with partners, like-minded partners, transatlantic partners such as United States, but also United Kingdom and others, to see how the situation develops. And of course, in light of further developments, we are open to look at further steps as necessary together with these partners I was mentioning.
Thank you very much. Joe, you have a follow-up question?
Thank you. Is it your assessment that in recent days, the build-up is suggesting a Russian aggression rather than just a standard kind of military training exercise, which we know Moscow and the Kremlin carry out quite regularly? Thank you.
Well, when it comes to standard military exercise, there are certain rules and procedures to be followed, such as informing on time the partners about this. So this is something that was not followed earlier this year. And that's why, as I said, there was a dedicated discussion by the foreign ministers already back then when the military build-up was really very concerning on Ukraine's borders. And since then, we are watching the situation, we are assessing the situation, and we are exchanging information also with the partners across the ocean and with other like-minded partners. And there will be another discussion by the foreign ministers, which is scheduled for next Monday. So this is also an opportunity to maybe see if steps need to be taken for the ministers to consider whether they would go in this direction. As I said, the information we gathered so far also with the partners is rather concerning.
Thank you very much. I will invite you to raise your hand if you have additional questions on this in relation to Ukraine. Mose, is your question about that? I see that your hand is up. If that's the case, go ahead, Mose. Can we have Mose on the line?
To your first question, I mean, your announcements about the situation at the border between Poland and Belarus, I think you started the discussion with that. So can I continue with my question?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you very much. You mentioned in your announcement that the Commission has been in contact with international organizations and also the International Red Cross. And then the question is, of course, when does the Commission assess that humanitarian aid can be provided to the stranded migrants at the border? Because I think we're all seeing pictures from the border and the humanitarian crisis is worsening. And then it brings me to another question with a link to yesterday's press conference about pushbacks, about the suspicion of pushbacks by Poland. And we were told that the Commission cannot assess that as long because they don't have any observers. They're not allowed to enter the region. At the same time, we also know that the Commission is analyzing, let's say, the changes in Polish and Lithuanian asylum legislation. And the question is now, let's say, and it's very possible that they might be compatible with international and EU law on asylum, but still they might also allow Poland to carry out pushbacks. And that's quite serious, as we know that Poland doesn't recognize, let's say, the primacy of EU law. So what is your comment to that? Maybe it's a question for Adalbert.
Thank you very much, Mose. A wide span of questions in relation to this complex situation there. As an answer to the first leg of your question on the humanitarian situation, as we have said repeatedly, we are following this closely and we are ready to do what we can to prevent a humanitarian crisis from unfolding, and we want to prevent further suffering for the people trapped at the border. As we said, we were happy to see that yesterday IOM and UNHCR were granted access to the place at the border where about 2,000 migrants are trapped. And they could deliver yesterday some items of first necessity. We're also in touch directly and intensely with the Red Cross to see what needs financially they have that we can cover in order to provide further support, because again, the well-being of the people there and the protection of the people there is an important concern for us. So we will update you in real time when we have more details and more developments in relation to the humanitarian support for the people at the border. In relation to your second question on alleged pushbacks, or rather the implementation of legislation there, allow me to invite Adalbert to provide you our position, but also allow me to stress that it hasn't evolved so much since yesterday when we already had that discussion. Adalbert.
Hello, Mose. Thank you very much for raising this question again. As Dana said, we've had this discussion yesterday as well as day before yesterday. And in fact, it's also an issue that Commissioner Johansson addressed numerous times, in particular in front of the European Parliament. And I would perhaps just refer you to all the comments that have been made on this issue. In any case, our assessment of the different laws that have been adopted is ongoing. We have been in contact with the national authorities in this regard. And when it comes to the implementation on the ground, we have also, I believe, said at this point everything that we are able to say right now. And we continue to follow the situation very closely, taking all the actions that Dana outlined at the beginning of the midday.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions for Adalbert on the situation at the border? So please only raise your hand if you have a question about that. Yes, please go ahead.
Khalid Hamid Faruqi from Geo Television News. Can you tell us how many nationalities among these 2,000 people who are trapped at the border? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is a very difficult question for Adalbert to answer because, of course, we do not have an overview of what is happening in Belarus. But Adalbert, how can we help?
Thank you, Khaled. And indeed, I think you're putting your finger on one of the very difficult aspects of the situation. We have just welcomed the fact that there has been, for the first time, access granted to international organizations, to the people trapped at this border. Other than that, we do not have access to these people, so we are not in a position to confirm who exactly they are. We only have second-hand information and intelligence that comes to us from various sources, including from our member states, but we would not be the best source to confirm that information. So unfortunately, the information, accurate information as to who exactly is there does not seem to be really available, and that underscores again the need to address the humanitarian aspect of this situation created by the Lukashenko regime, which is, again, why we are working on all the different aspects that Dana mentioned.
Thank you very much, Adalbert. Are there any additional questions for Adalbert on the situation at the Belarus border? Samuel, I think that you want to engage with us on that. Can we have Samuel on the line?
La question concerne en fait le financement de protection aux frontières. Et je voulais savoir si depuis que Mme von der Leyen a dit clairement lors du dernier Conseil qu'il était hors de question que des fonds européens soient utilisés pour la construction de murs ou de barbelés, est-ce que la réflexion a évolué au vu des derniers événements à la frontière avec le Bélarus? Et j'aurais aimé vous poser une question aussi sur des articles de presse en Pologne qui font état apparemment d'une somme de 25 millions d'euros qui aurait été proposée pour la construction d'une protection à la frontière avec le Bélarus, qui aurait été proposée à la Pologne. Est-ce que vous pouvez m'en dire plus? Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Samuel. Voici encore une fois une grande variété de questions qui impliquent plusieurs porte-paroles. Donc, sur la première question, permets-moi d'attirer ton attention au fait que nous finançons une grande variété d'interventions et de soutiens et d'équipements pour soutenir les États membres dans la gestion de leurs frontières extérieures. Et sur la question précise des fences, je donne la parole à Adalbert qui peut réitérer encore une fois quelle est notre position.
Tout à fait. Merci beaucoup, Dana. Samuel, je me permettrai peut-être tout simplement de te renvoyer à ce que j'ai pu répondre hier. Je peux évidemment répéter exactement les mêmes mots, mais je pense que ce sera dans l'intérêt de nous tous que je te renvoie tout simplement à l'enregistrement d'hier. Je peux juste attirer ton attention sur le fait que, effectivement, nos financements pour cette question sont extrêmement considérables et efficaces sur le terrain. Et c'est pour cela que nous avons aussi publié le document à laquelle nous avons fait référence.
Merci beaucoup. Samuel, tu as une question de suivi.
Et sur la somme de 25 millions qui aurait été proposée spécifiquement pour la résolution de la crise actuelle, est-ce que vous avez un commentaire?
Merci beaucoup, Samuel. Nous n'avons pas un commentaire là-dessus parce que je pense que tu te réfères à des articles de presse qui citent des discussions sur le budget 2022 qui sont en cours. Et comme ces discussions ont lieu en ce moment, nous ne sommes pas en mesure de pouvoir donner des détails de cette discussion. Donc, une fois que nous allons être en position de le faire, peut-être cet après-midi, une fois qu'il y a des nouvelles et des évolutions là-bas, nous allons pouvoir confirmer des détails et des chiffres qui sont effectivement en discussion. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions pour Adalbert sur les aspects qui concernent, les aspects migratoires de la situation à la frontière avec la Biélorussie? Voilà, je ne vois pas d'autres questions. Merci beaucoup, Adalbert. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions pour Peter sur des aspects liés à la Biélorussie ou à l'Ukraine? Je vois que Momchil a sa main levée. Vas-y, Momchil.
Yes, but my question is not on Belarus or Ukraine, it's on Russia. Can I go on or must I wait?
I think you can go on.
Okay, thank you. So, yesterday, the Russian General Prosecutor's Office demanded the liquidation of the world-known society, a human rights society called Memorial, which has, among its activities, has identified thousands of foreign victims of the Stalin repressions. Are you aware of this? And if so, would you commend that?
Thank you, Momchil. Indeed, we are not only aware, but we strongly deplore this decision or this move by the Russian prosecutor. Memorial is a renowned, internationally renowned and acknowledged and recognized NGO providing very important work for the civil society and the society in Russia. That's why this is a deplorable decision, and this is just yet another example of how the state authorities are shrinking the space for civil society, for the critical voices. So in addition to targeting journalists and political activists, they are also trying to target NGOs, and this is something which is done, for example, through the foreign agent law, which we called on Russia repeatedly to repel because it's contradicting international obligations by Russia. So we are just calling on Russian authorities to reverse these steps, and we see it as yet another example of ongoing restrictions or ongoing efforts to restrict the space for critical voices within the Russian society.
Thank you very much, Peter. Momchil, you have a follow-up question. Go ahead.
The step taken towards Memorial a reason for a special alarm, meaning that this society is investigating the Stalin terror. So such an organization will be liquidated. Isn't it a reason for a bigger alarm?
Well, indeed, as I said, I mean, we are already alarmed enough by all the steps that have been taken against NGOs, against other NGOs, against all the critical voices within the Russian society. Memorial, of course, is probably the most known and also beyond Russian borders. This organization or this NGO is very important in the protection of human rights and also in elaborating the history and processing the history of political repression in Russia. So its work is very valuable for the Russian society, for the Russian people to understand in what kind of regime they have been living and they are probably still living. So this is a source for alarm, and it needs to be seen in the context of the ongoing systematic efforts which have been there since many months by the state authorities to misuse the state powers and this law, foreign agents law, and also another law, which is the law on undesirable organizations, to really go after those who dare to voice critical opinion, question the official narrative, and try to enlighten the Russian society about the situation which the country has been living or is living nowadays. So indeed, this is a source of concern, and I can only repeat the call of the European Union on the Russian authorities to reverse the steps and stop shrinking the space for the civil society and for the critical voices, to have the exchanges which are very healthy and very important for every civilized European society.
Thank you, Peter. Momchil, I think you have another follow-up?
No,
No, so your hand was just up. Very good. Please now keep your hand up if you have additional questions for Peter on Russia. So only questions on Russia at this stage. I don't see any. So then please indicate your interest to ask additional questions to Peter on other topics. Yes, David.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, go ahead. We can, go
Okay. It's related to Belarus, but it's so we heard the German foreign minister yesterday mentioning the possibility of further sanctions on potash fertilizers. And related to this, I don't know if you're aware, I mean, it's detailed, but a lot of the price of fertilizers comes from natural gas prices. And then the second element of that is obviously Lukashenko's threat to cut off gas supplies to Europe. So this would hit in two ways if it ever came about. My question to you or to the Commission is, what planning is there at this moment in case this comes about, in case it's not just a threat, but Lukashenko pulls it through? And then in terms of widening sanctions, that your own officials in August, they said that the EU sanctions on Belarus fertilizers were very limited. If they were to be widened, this would have an even greater effect on fertilizer prices and agriculture. So what planning are you doing in the eventuality that this comes about?
Thank you very much. Let me address some of the last bits of your question before giving the floor to Peter for a broader statement on sanctions. So first of all, let us restate our position very clearly. We are not going to be intimidated by any blackmail or threats. Gas is a commodity and cannot be used as a tool to blackmail or to achieve leverage in any discussion. This is our very, very, very clear position, and I'm very happy that you gave us the opportunity to state it here again. Secondly, on the other legs of the question, on sanctions, allow me to give the question to Peter.
Thank you. There's not more to add what we have been saying since basically this issue came up. The European Union, currently the member states are working on enlarging the scope of the sanctions and to see if further measures are necessary in order to react to what Lukashenko regime is currently doing. So these discussions, take in the atmosphere of confidentiality. Member states are discussing it. The decisions can be expected rather soon. So it's not really for me to speculate what if and what sectors, what commodities, what people, and etc. would be targeted. But this is part of our overall approach. Sanctions are not the policy. Sanctions are a tool. We are using and applying sanctions as one of the instruments, along other instruments we have at hand, and other instruments have been discussed here also very thoroughly, and that's the outreach with the countries of origin and transit when it comes to instrumentalization of migration, but also working with other partners worldwide when it comes to sanctioning, for example, the ongoing repression against Belarusian population, because this is also something that is being forgotten currently, that the primary reason for the situation of today and the actions of Lukashenko regime is to cover up for his ongoing repression of his own citizens. Over 35,000 people in Belarus have been imprisoned or detained and persecuted only because they dared to say their opinion, that they don't like this current regime and Mr. Lukashenko. There are over 800 political prisoners in Belarus. The repression is ongoing against civil society, independent media, human rights activists being intimidated, detained or sentenced in trials behind closed doors. So he wants to cover up for this, and the European Union, together with international partners, are trying to react to it with a set of activities and tools. Sanctions are one of them. Sanctions are currently under discussion, and it comes down to the member states and their willingness, ability to reach consensus about the scope and the content of the sanctions which have been done, which are being under discussion, or which might come even afterwards, after the 5th expected round of the sanctions.
Thank you very much. I think that David has a follow-up question, so go ahead.
Is this going through? Yeah. My question wasn't about the EU position, or that we're not going to bend to threats or the actions of the Belarus regime. It was purely related to the effects of any action that the EU takes in very crucial fields. I mean, this is food we're talking about at the end of the day, and we're also talking about heating at a crucial period where things are getting very cold in many states. So I was just wondering on these points, what planning is the Commission doing in the eventuality that we go to a situation which is much tougher in terms of sanctions, sectoral sanctions, economic sanctions?
Thank you very much for relaunching it. So allow me to say that the question of any cutting off of gas supplies by Belarus or by anyone else is a highly hypothetical one, so we are not going to engage directly into what might or might not happen and what is the thinking about that in Minsk. However, on a more general note, what I can tell you is about our preparedness with regards to energy. And you've been surely following for several weeks or even months now the discussions that we had about energy supplies, about prices of gas, prices of energy in general and of electricity. And you are perhaps aware of the reflections that we have been carrying out in-house about how to do everything possible to make sure that Europeans are not affected by issues linked to gas supply or by the prices of energy this winter and thereafter. Allow me to say that a few weeks ago we published a communication where we state clearly the actions that we take at the short term, so to compensate Europeans for any hikes in prices caused by the situation with regards to supply. We have also told specifically how we carry out outreach with regards to other suppliers of gas than the ones that you mentioned in order to secure and increase the supply of this commodity. And we have also explained how we go about the other sources of energy which are invaluable in our energy supply, for instance, renewables, because we have been saying, and I'm very happy to say it again, the way ahead is really to grow European-based renewable energy sources which are clean, which are stable, and whose price has been decreasing constantly over the years. So we have announced a number of measures with a short-term perspective to protect Europeans from any such risks which would have an effect on price. And we have also presented our thinking and the measures that we will take in the medium term with relation to strategic reserves or in relation to the energy market to enable the best possible and the most adequate functioning of the energy market. So that is amply available to you if you wish, and we can provide even additional details after this midday briefing through our energy spokesperson. Yes, please go ahead.
And allow me to add one more sentence, because I mean, trying to take Lukashenko's remarks at their face value is basically contributing to spreading his false narrative. He tries to basically, or he continues in the disinformation efforts which his regime was doing already on other issues, like threatening the EU. This is not the first threat Lukashenko is doing. So, I mean, speculating on what might happen, on what might be the problem for the EU if he delivers on his threats. Basically, if he would deliver on his threat, he would harm, first of all, Belarusian people. He would further harm the image of his country, and he would also harm the supplier of the gas. And I don't think this is a game he wants to play. So bottom line is for the EU in our approach to Belarus to stop him from doing what he is doing and to return back to the normal civilized way of behaving towards neighbors and especially towards his own people.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for Peter on Belarus? Yes, Yuri. Go ahead.
Do you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Good. Thank you very much. Yeah, my question is on Belarus. I don't know if it's for you, Dana, or for Peter. So you indicated that there was an outreach to different airlines, and it was clear that that there was an outreach to Turkish authorities and to Turkish Airlines because of what we heard today. Can you elaborate about other airlines, and especially was there any outreach to Aeroflot, to Russian authorities, and also if you have any indications if Aeroflot is bringing any migrants to Belarus or not? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yuri. For this, I will invite Stefan to provide you more details about our ongoing contacts with airlines.
Hello, good morning, thank you very much, or good afternoon rather. Yes, Dana has made a quite extensive statement on the work that has been ongoing at the level of the Vice President, Skinas, Commissioner Valian, and their respective teams. Several contacts have been established with a number of individual airlines, including Fly Dubai, Turkish Airlines, Royal Air Maroc, Air Arabia, Emirates, Qatar Airways, Etihad, Middle Eastern Airlines, Oman Air, Iraqi Airways, and Egypt Air. These are the airlines that have been contacted in the context of the difficult situation that we are all trying to handle now. And as Dana said, all these airlines have strongly condemned any form of human trafficking, and this has even led to a few very concrete actions already. This is what I can share at this stage regarding the different airlines that have been contacted and have been involved in our talks. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for Stefan on airlines or for Peter more broadly on the Belarus situation, the external angle? That doesn't seem to be the case, or perhaps Jean-Pierre. Jean-Pierre, vas-y.
Oui, bonjour à tous, vous m'entendez?
Oui, on t'entend, vas-y.
C'est une question de suivi sur l'énergie. Des sources affirmaient ce matin qu'on aurait constaté une baisse de 40% des flux sur le gazoduc Yamal qui achemine le gaz russe vers l'Allemagne et la Pologne notamment. Est-ce que vous êtes informé de cette situation ou est-ce qu'il s'agit d'une fake news?
Je vais donner la parole à Tim qui devrait être connecté à partir de Glasgow pour voir s'il a des précisions à apporter en ce qui concerne les informations que tu apportes. Yeah. Voilà, il est là. Tim, vas-y.
Oui, bonjour. Oui, je suis désolé, mais on n'a pas d'informations sur les flux précises. Évidemment, c'est quelque chose qui évolue tout le temps, mais on peut se renseigner et revenir vers vous avec plus d'informations si on en a.
Merci beaucoup, Tim, et bonne chance pour la suite à Glasgow. C'est une journée importante là. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions pour nous sur le sujet de l'énergie? Yeah, David, yes, go ahead.
Totally different, but by the 30th of June, the Commission was supposed to do a review of high ILUC land use change feedstocks. Palm is already considered high land use, so it's contributing to deforestation. Soy is another feedstock which has been mentioned. It's very close to the criteria laid down. So this review by the Commission was due by the 30th of June. It's not there now. We're almost at the end of the year. I was wondering, would this review come out next week when we have this deforestation regulation, or is this planned for some other time? And will soy be included as high ILUC risk?
Thank you very much, David, for the agenda and all the elements of the packages that will be on the agenda of the college next week. I will just simply invite you to wait until Monday, because, as you know, the agendas of what is being discussed by the College of Commissioners is being confirmed Mondays when the Chef of Cabinet of Commissioners meet and when they when the last decisions are made, considering what is ripe for discussion and for adoption by the Commission. But I also understand from Vivian that what you are referred to is a separate report under the LULUCF directive. So unless Vivian has additional elements to bring on the stage at this point, I will tell you that you will check about the date of release of this report, but it's separate from what the college will discuss and adopt next week. I hope this helps. Do you have a follow-up question, David?
Yeah, it's not about the LULUCF. It's a 2009 delegated regulation, but it is quite an important subject. It concerns deforestation, but the energy use of it, so it's separate from what's coming out on the agenda. I mean, my question, it's more about better regulation, really, because, you know, the Commission committed to doing this review by the 30th of June this year. It's not there. I understand that you were really, really busy with the Fit for 55 package, but could you explain why it's not there and when will it come?
Thank you very much. So I think now it's clear what you are asking about, and I believe that this is something that Tim could provide an answer from, again, from Glasgow. So Tim, are you connected? Did you catch the question? And are you ready to provide any details about this?
I'm connected and I caught the question, but I don't have specific details on the timing and the procedure. I mean, I think what I would just say in general terms, as always, is that, you know, we want to do a very thorough process and make sure that the work is done comprehensively and that all issues are addressed. And as soon as we are able to present something, we of course will do so. And David, I will look into it and come back to you and see if there is any precision on timing.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim, and you will get back to David bilaterally. I will now invite you to indicate your interest in asking additional questions. We have been mixing up subjects here on stage, stemming from energy linked to Belarus to other aspects of energy, and I know that colleagues still have additional questions about the previous subjects. So yes, allow me to give the floor to Lorenzo.
My question concerns a decision by the
Lorenzo, I'm afraid to say the sound is not very good, so could you start from the beginning again?
Okay. Can you hear me better?
Now it's better. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. But I hope this question has not been asked yesterday because I couldn't follow yesterday. This is about the concessions, the state concessions for beaches in Italy. There was a decision by the Conseil d'État, the Italian Council of State, and according to this decision, actually, the automatic extension of the concessions that had been given for a very long period in 2035 has now to be stopped in 2023, December 2023. So since this is an issue that has raised a lot of interest, and the Commission is involved in this because there is a sentence of the Court of Justice, can you tell us what do you think about this decision, and if this is a satisfactory way out in the situation with Italy about this? Thank you.
Sonia.
Many thanks for your question, Lorenzo. Indeed, the Commission, as you know, is following this case very closely, and we welcome the decision of the Highest Administrative Court of Italy, which confirms the position of the Commission and also the latest judgment of the Court of Justice. So the Italian authorities need to proceed with the reform of the system, and they need to award the beach concession contracts in a transparent and non-discriminatory way. And it's extremely important because the tourism sector, including the beach concessions and the beach resorts in Italy, have suffered a lot during the COVID crisis, and this sector has been hit very hard. So the sector needs to be modernized in its innovation, competitiveness, and growth. So we believe that through the concession contract awards, in a transparent and objective way, this sector will be helped also to reboost and recover financially from the crisis. So we prompt the Italian authorities to follow very swiftly the decision of the highest administrative court and to start awarding the concession contracts for the period following 2023.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Are there any additional questions on this subject for Sonia on concessions? Or are there any additional questions for Sonia for the other files that she follows? That's not the case, so thank you, Sonia. Are there any other questions for us today? Yes, David, you've been waiting for a while. Go ahead.
Oui, merci Dana. Je demande pardon à Adalbert, mais le Midday est arrivé en retard, le Daily News, pardon, est arrivé en retard. Donc, je n'avais pas vu les procédures d'infraction, etc. J'ai vu qu'il y a une demande de sanctionner avec une amende l'Hongrie à la Cour européenne de justice. Je voulais avoir plus de précisions, si c'est possible, au-delà de ce qu'on a pu lire dans le communiqué spécifique sur ce sujet.
Merci beaucoup, David. Adalbert, à toi.
Merci David aussi pour cette opportunité d'essayer les différents endroits sur le podium aujourd'hui. Donc je ne sais pas exactement quel détail supplémentaire il te faudrait. Évidemment, nous sommes prêts à te fournir tous les détails que nous pouvons, sachant que nous sommes assez limités en termes de ce que nous pouvons partager sur les procédures d'infraction. Comme tu le sais, ce sont des procédures juridiques où nous communiquons des informations relativement générales afin de ne pas mettre en danger le bon déroulement de la procédure. Juste peut-être, puisque tu as évoqué la question spécifique des pénalités, je peux peut-être rappeler que pour la non mise en œuvre de jugement de la Cour de justice, il y a une méthodologie claire et transparente sur la manière dont les montants demandés par la Commission sont calculés. Et en parlant sous le contrôle de Christian, dont c'est vraiment le dossier, je peux peut-être juste rappeler que c'est une méthodologie qui est disponible publiquement et que tu peux consulter si tu le souhaites.
Merci beaucoup, David. Tu as une question de suivi. Vas-y.
Oui, merci. Si je lis bien le communiqué par rapport à l'arrêt qui a été rendu par la Cour de justice le 17 décembre 2020, l'Hongrie n'a pas pris les mesures nécessaires pour garantir un accès effectif à la procédure d'asile. Je voulais savoir quelles sont les mesures que l'Hongrie aurait dû prendre, n'a pas précisé les conditions relatives au droit de rester sur le territoire en cas de recours dans le cadre d'une procédure d'asile lorsqu'il s'agit d'une situation de crise engendrée par une immigration massive. Je voulais une traduction pour les auditeurs et lecteurs qui ne connaissent pas le jargon européen. Merci.
Très bien, merci beaucoup David. Bon, sans tomber dans une discussion académique et sans prétendre faire un cours de droit européen, en fait, la manière dont cela se passe, c'est que nous évaluons si ce qu'un État fait est conforme au droit européen, et ensuite, si ce n'est pas le cas, nous lançons des procédures d'infraction. Nous ne disons pas forcément aux États ce qu'ils doivent faire exactement pour se mettre en conformité avec les directives. C'est aux États membres de déterminer la manière spécifique de le faire, tant que leurs solutions sont conformes avec le droit européen. Donc c'est plutôt comme cela que ça se passe. C'est aux États de proposer de mettre en œuvre le droit, et ensuite nous évaluons si cette solution est conforme ou pas. Donc je ne serai pas en mesure de te dire exactement comment la Hongrie devrait mettre en œuvre les directives concernées. Il s'agit ici de plusieurs provisions plusieurs dispositions de la directive procédure d'asile, de la directive conditions d'accueil et de la directive retour. qui concerne non seulement la question d'accès, mais aussi, comme tu l'as mentionné, la question de savoir comment les personnes peuvent se maintenir sur le territoire pendant que des procédures d'appel ont encore lieu. Il y a des obligations dans le droit européen là-dessus et la législation hongroise n'est pas complètement conforme. Voici ce que je peux te dire à ce sujet. Si tu le souhaites, nous pouvons essayer de regarder ensemble en détail quels sont éventuellement d'autres détails que nous pouvons te donner, mais à ce stade, voici ce que je peux te dire.
Merci beaucoup, Adalbert. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions supplémentaires pour Adalbert sur les autres sujets qu'il couvre aussi? Ce n'est pas le cas. Merci beaucoup, Adalbert. Est-ce qu'il a d'autres questions pour nous aujourd'hui sur tout autre sujet? Yes, Joe, go ahead.
Thank you. A fishing question for Vivian, please. We've had kind of a month now of intensive negotiations or discussions between Britain, the EU and France. I'm just wondering if you could give us any update on how these are going, whether we've made any progress. Have Britain been able to license any more vessels that you can announce? That's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yeah, let's see what updates Vivian can provide on fish.
Thank you very much, Joe, for this opportunity to give you the update after a week of not touching on the subject. Well, the thing is that the talks are still ongoing, and on the European side, we are really working hard in making sure that our fishermen and women get those licenses that they have the right to get according to the agreements that we have in place. And I don't have any more details to share with you today, just that we've had the week where we've had the talks. We see that they are necessary to bring in information that is needed on both sides, and we continue with those. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Are there any additional questions for Vivian on fishery-related matters? I don't see any other questions for Vivian on other matters that she covers. Not the case either, so thank you, Vivian. And let me invite you once more to raise your hand if you have other questions for us today. And I see that Katalin is interested to open another subject. So go ahead, Katalin.
Yes, thank you very much, Dana. This is a question about the rule of law conditionality mechanism. Can you confirm that the Commission has finalized 2 letters to Hungary and to Poland, informal letters, asking clarifications, and the President of the Commission has blocked sending these letters to relevant governments? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katalin. What I can clearly say is that work is ongoing in the European Commission across the concerned services on the matter of the rule of law mechanism, and Balázs can give you a further update on where we stand.
Indeed, my confirmation will be of similar nature. The work is very much ongoing on this file. The regulation came into force on the 1st of January. Since then, we've been working very hard to build up potential cases under this regulation. And I should add that under Article 6, Paragraph 4 of the regulation, the Commission has the opportunity to request information from the member states concerned, whether it be after the so-called formal launch of the procedure or before. So when we feel the need to reach out to a member state for additional information, we will certainly not hesitate to do so.
Thank you very much. And I recall you that the President also said in their Soto speech that we are working on this, and we will be sending letters rapidly, and we are at that stage. I see that David has his hand up. David, would you want to ask a question about this matter, or is it different?
Oui, merci Dan. C'est sur ça. Excuse-moi si j'insiste, mais la présidente, comme tu l'as rappelé, elle a dit qu'elle aurait envoyé les notifications, pas les lettres, les notifications prochainement, très prochainement, rapidement si tu veux. C'était le 15 septembre, on est le 12 novembre. Et voilà. Quelle est la conception de la rapidité de la présidence sur l'état de droit?
Merci beaucoup. Comme tu sais, David, c'est un sujet qui nous tient à cœur beaucoup, politiquement, juridiquement et de tous les autres points de vue. Évidemment, comme je viens de le dire moi-même, on a dit que nous allons agir vite. Nous sommes peut-être 7 semaines, 8 semaines après le discours que tu mentionnes et des lettres, si elles doivent être envoyées, vont partir dès que nous sommes prêts. Nous sommes encore en train de travailler sur ces sujets. On n'a pas autre chose à ajouter sur une certaine date et je n'ai pas de précision supplémentaire à te faire. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions à ce sujet? Je n'en vois pas. Thank you very much, Balázs. Are there any other questions for us today? I don't see any, so thank you very much. Have a great weekend and see you next week.